Crimson Rivers, Breakup, Part 2. Regulus doesn't want to like Remus Lupin, but he likes Remus Lupin. To begin with, admittedly, Regulus was indifferent about Remus on the whole. He was aware that Sirius was tripping all over himself every time Remus so much as looked at him, and frankly, Regulus was more than happy to ignore their first little stumbles into love, because he honestly had more pressing matters to deal with, up to and including the steady approach of his required presence in a death arena. The death arena has come and gone, though it continues to loom over him at all times, but Sirius and Remus remain as stupid about each other as ever. Regulus still has more pressing matters to deal with, really, so he remains indifferent to whatever the fuck they have going on. He is mildly relieved to know that he doesn't have to put any energy into worrying about it, because it's quite clear that Remus is one of Sirius's only sources of happiness in the Hallow. However, Remus as a separate entity from Sirius is something else entirely. Before, Regulus just treated him as he would anyone else, curt and distant. Because he doesn't like people. It's not that Remus is a servant. That's not something he really thinks about. Because he refuses to play into the Hallow's absurd and barbaric methods for dealing with criminals. Now, after Remus helped him, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Remus did help him. While Regulus sat there in the water, tears streaming down his face as he took a bath, it was Remus who kept him tethered, kept him from going right back to the echoes of clawed fingers digging into his body. It was Remus's voice that kept him from hearing his own muffled screams. It was Remus's close presence that kept him from tasting blood. Remus helped him, and Remus isn't afraid to be blunt and honest, and damn it all to hell, Regulus likes him. What matters the most, Regulus thinks, is that Remus kept his word. He took care of Sirius. Regulus will always be grateful for that, even if he'll never say it. So it's easy to be around him. Well, it's easier to be around him than anyone else, though Pandora is a strong contender, which Regulus honestly didn't see coming. She has this way about her that makes everything she says sound so rational, like it's the right way to be. She's dangerously persuasive, but never in an underhanded way. Just sort of like she makes everything she suggests make too much sense to argue with. And she's comforting. Regulus didn't expect that either, how comforting people who aren't James and Sirius can be. Remus most of all. You know, Remus muses, you're going to have to see James eventually, so putting it off is a moot point. Regulus heaves a sigh and keeps staring out past the balcony edge. The Hallow is teeming with activity today. People no doubt excited about the upcoming interview that Regulus is doing his level best not to think about. He and Remus are once again sitting out on the balcony, where Regulus prefers to spend most of his time. Regulus can feel Remus's eyes on him, where he's bent over in his chair, arms braced on the table. I already saw him, Regulus confesses, swiveling his head to look at Remus. He came to my door last night. Oh, Remus says, clearly startled. How'd that go? We broke up, Regulus murmurs. Oh, Remus repeats, still startled. You were together? Regulus frowns, gaze drifting to the side. No. That's the thing, isn't it? They were never together. Never even got to be, not really. They exist in almosts, not absolutes. It doesn't matter what they want or how badly they want it, because they never get to have. It should be simple, but it's not, and here they are, defeated by circumstances. Time and time again, that's all it is. Always a great, big fucking tragedy. A defiant part of Regulus wants to fight it anyway, to go to James and cling to him, and never let go, no matter what tries to tear them apart next. But that takes effort. They both have to put in the work for that, and Regulus is tired. James is tired too, he can tell. They're both so beaten down by everything that's been attacking them for the last 10 years. When things just keep hitting you over and over and over, eventually, at some point, you just close your eyes and give in to it. Maybe one day, when the hits stop landing, they'll both be able to pick themselves up and brush themselves off, tend to their bruises, let them heal, and figure out how to meet in the middle when they're not under attack anymore. It's a tentative thought in Regulus's mind, tasting faintly of hope in the back of his throat. and it scares him, but he's unwilling to shove it down and hide away from it. If that's all he can do for James, then he'll do it. James deserves that, at the very least. Well, Remus says carefully, either way it's shit. Sorry. Thanks, Regulus replies. Neither of them speak for a while, and Regulus likes that about Remus, too. That he knows when not to talk, or just randomly has no idea how to fill the silence at the exact right time. Regulus finds safety in silence now, the same way he does in not sleeping. Not talking ensures he doesn't have to give life to the horrors in his head, and not sleeping ensures that he doesn't have to confront them in his nightmares. Every time he sleeps, Evan is there. Irene is there. Avery and Mulciber and Vanity and everyone. They're all there. And he's there swallowing blood just to breathe. With every inhale and every exhale, he can taste where it coats his teeth. There's a knock on the balcony door that immediately makes Regulus's muscles bunch up under his skin, and for a brief moment he asks himself who he is going to have to kill so that he and Remus will survive. It makes his stomach churn, the way he responds like this every time, and no one is safe. Anyone close to him he'll just drag right into the arena with him, and then he wonders how they'll die, if their blood will be on his hands, literally or metaphorically. Then Sirius pokes his head through the door, and Regulus wills the tension to seep out of his frame. Sirius is safe. Sirius is a dream, actually. Every time Regulus looks at him, he can feel a flicker of doubt in his mind that maybe he did die in that river, and seeing his brother again is the reward for doing one thing right in the end. But in the same breath, Sirius told him that he's alive, he's here, and there's no one Regulus instinctively trusts more than Sirius, even now. The sight of Sirius always makes a confession lodge in Regulus's throat without fail. He should have said it. He wants to say it. He looks at Sirius and thinks, I love you too, as loud as he can, practically begging the words to crawl out of his throat, willing to vomit them up if he has to, even if they come out covered in blood. Of course, Regulus loves his brother. Despite everything, despite all their history, that never went away. He supposes he hated Sirius for that too. He hated Sirius for a lot of things, he thinks, but he doesn't remember them anymore. Suddenly, it's as if Regulus can't recall any reason he was ever angry with Sirius. Not ever. It's different now, from the other side of it. He can only think about how he hit Sirius, and he imagines how Sirius must have been after he got out of the arena. He knew that it was bad, distantly, only in the abstract. After all, Sirius never let him see it, always kept him at a distance with James's help, pushing him out until he turned inwards and vowed never to try to go back. But Regulus gets it now, firsthand. He understands in a way he didn't before, and he's not angry. He doesn't hate Sirius anymore, not at all, not even a little bit. Regulus loves him so much that he chokes on it every time he looks at him. He wants to tell Sirius so bad that it hurts, because the fact that Sirius didn't say it when Regulus was going into the arena, but he said it when Regulus got out, is so important to him. It means so much to Regulus that he can't even articulate it. Because Regulus has killed people, and Sirius still said it. Because Regulus isn't the one who took care of him, and Sirius still said it. Because Regulus is mean and miserable, and no longer that boy that once was worth loving. Now, he's just this. Just someone who doesn't deserve it, and isn't worth it. And Sirius still said it. Sirius still said it. And he meant it. Regulus wants to see it back. He wants Sirius to know that he loves him too, even after everything. Even though this is who he is, he's still capable of it. He swears he is. He just can't get the words out. Completely oblivious to Regulus's inner turmoil over this, Sirius steps outside, leaving the door cracked as he gives Remus a soft smile. Remus returns it immediately. Regulus looks away because privacy is so important to him now. Everyone deserves privacy. Everyone. Reggie, Sirius says, drawing Regulus's gaze. I know you're dreading it, but I need you to come out to the main room so Pandora and I can prep you and James for the interview. How much time do we have? Regulus asks quietly. Sirius grimaces. An hour, and then you both have to go meet with Dorcas. You'll have to bathe. Regulus hates the way he's instantly terrified, every cell in his body screaming out in protest. No, he doesn't want to do it again. Please don't make him do it again. Dorcas has agreed to only filling the tub a small bit, and she's promised to stay with you the entire time, Sirius says softly. And Regulus wants to just toss shit around. He wants to slam his dagger into something or someone, and he doesn't even have it anymore. He keeps searching for his daggers without meaning to, his hands feeling misshapen without them. Regulus hates feeling like this, vulnerable, broken. He hates that the mere thought of water can make him want to crawl right out of his skin. He hates that he's scared, that panic instantly floods his entire nervous system, that it's the equivalent to his life being in danger every time. What is he going to do? How is he going to do this? Because not being clean is just as much of an issue. That takes him right back to the arena too. Every bath it's torture, it's pain, it's memories and blood clogging his throat and fingers digging into his skin, dragging him down, down, down. How is Regulus supposed to live like this? He can't expect someone to talk him through bathing for the rest of his life. He can't just not bathe for the rest of his life. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He doesn't... Regulus? Sirius calls, crouching down in front of him, so close that Regulus clamps down on the arms of his chair so he won't lash out like his instincts demand him to. Just breathe, breathe. Regulus inhales sharply, feeling it stutter in his chest, catching and hitching. Sirius watches him with visible concern, so much of it that Regulus just feels guilty. There you go, Sirius murmurs a few moments later, as Regulus's breathing slowly starts to settle into a rhythm that's acceptable. It's going to be quick, okay? Dorcas promised. In and out and over before you know it. I promise. I love you too, Regulus thinks, and he doesn't speak. He can't. Come on, Sirius says, standing up. It's going to be okay, Regulus. I promise it will. Come on, we need to talk. I'll go find something to do, Remus mumbles as he pushes to his feet at the same time Regulus does. Sirius frowns at him. Don't be ridiculous. You're coming too. I mean, well, only if you want to. You don't have to, obviously. Of course you don't, but... Obviously he's coming, Regulus mutters as he pushes past Sirius, rolling his eyes. Oh, honestly, he genuinely cannot understand how Sirius doesn't realize that there's nothing Remus wants more than just to be around him. Idiots. Well, apparently I'm obviously coming, Remus says in wry amusement as he follows them through Regulus's room. Sirius says something under his breath that makes Remus snort, and Regulus picks up his pace because he really does value privacy more than he ever has, so he refuses to be an interloper to their stupid flirting. Not that he particularly wants to anyway, but regardless. When Regulus steps out of the hall, he comes to a brief halt, because James is walking around with his cane, apparently getting a feel for it, practicing, letting it become an extension of him, because he has to rely on it now, as well as in the future when he needs it. Seeing it makes Regulus want to rewind time and rip Axus's fucking head off. And it's that. Even just looking at James takes him right back. The mere sight of him pushes him to the brink, where he's willing to kill for him, willing to die for him. Being on the brink is terrifying. He doesn't want to be there anymore. As James turns, he glances up, then comes to a stop as well. Regulus sees his hand clench on the handle of his cane, and despite that, his eyes are soft, sad, adoring. There's love there in his eyes. Regulus misses his glasses. Hey, James greets, seemingly calm. Hello, Regulus replies, just as steady, despite the fact that this exchange feels so terribly inadequate following the events of the previous night. Regulus wants to crawl into his arms again. Regulus wants to never be touched again. James clears his throat and gently taps his cane to the floor. I'm getting better with it. The pain is a bit better today. Shouldn't look like too much of an idiot when walking out on the stage, so that's, nice, I suppose. This is where Regulus would usually say, you always look like an idiot, but he can't bring himself to, because it would be a lie. James never looks like an idiot, certainly not while leaning on his cane. He looks beautiful. He's always so beautiful. There's a barrier between them, a heavy sort of block that makes Regulus feel itchy. It's genuinely awkward. No matter what they've gone through, they've never been awkward with each other. They've never been uncertain about how to act. They've never been truly uncomfortable in the other's presence. And he's only just realizing this now, because it's the first time it has happened. He despises it. "Come here, Regulus. Sit down," Pandora calls gently, patting the seat beside her with a sympathetic smile. Regulus looks away from James and moves over to do just that, only to stop a few steps later. He glances at James again, who swallows when their eyes meet. For a second, as their eyes lock, Regulus hears the countdown to the games in the distance. He waits for the cannon, but it never comes. "You look good with the cane. Or, no, not—" Regulus sighs, exhausted already. He ignores the fact that Remus and Sirius are lingering in front of the hallway, and Pandora is visibly holding her breath, all of them staring at him like maybe he's grown a second head. "You don't look like an idiot, I mean." This is where James would usually smile and say, No, you said I look good. Say it again." But he doesn't. He says nothing. Regulus turns away and goes to sit next to Pandora, gaze lowered. James is ushered into his own chair, while Remus and Sirius plop down next to each other across from Pandora and Regulus. They're holding hands and their legs are pressed together, which Regulus doesn't look at. That's theirs, no one else's. Regulus thinks he would kill someone if they dared to think that they were entitled to any part of it, and then he thinks that he has to stop jumping immediately to murder for anything he takes issue with. He never wanted to do that. He never wanted that to become a habit. "All right, we won't have much time, so I'm not doing this delicately," Pandora announces. She shifts slightly so she can face Regulus and James at the same time. "You two are going to be interviewed by Rita again, and just like last time, it's not going to be a fun process." "Understatement," Sirius mutters, sounding oddly nervous, which is Regulus's first clue that something is wrong. He feels suspicion immediately take root. "Rita will talk about what happened in the arena," Pandora says firmly. Completely no nonsense and not pulling her punches just to coddle them, which Regulus admittedly appreciates. "That means everything. Everyone you killed. Everyone you lost. She will ask questions. She will want you to talk about how you felt during those moments. She will demand an explanation for the reasons behind every move you made and every decision you settled on." Regulus's stomach twists into knots, his gaze shifting to look at James, who is so still that he looks made of stone. His face is slack, and he looks like he's going to be sick. "You cannot, under any circumstances, respond aggressively to anything she says," Pandora declares sharply, and there's an edge to her tone that makes Regulus stiffen as he turns his head to stare at her. "You are not allowed to insinuate that you place blame on the Hallow, or Riddle, or the Hunger Games themselves. You both will take full responsibility for everything that happened. Do you understand?" "Are you fucking joking?" This, surprisingly, comes from Remus. He sounds absolutely furious. "But they're not—" "I don't care," Pandora hisses, cutting him a sharp look that would make a lesser man shrink back, but Remus does not. If anything, it only seems to make him more defiant. "Remus," Sirius says quietly, "stop." "What?" Remus blurts out, whipping his head around to stare at Sirius with wide eyes. "You—" "Please don't look at me like that," Sirius croaks, his expression pained as he drops his gaze. I know how it seems, but she's right. There's something you're not telling us," Regulus says, as soon as he figures this out. He swings his gaze between Sirius and Pandora. Sirius doesn't meet his gaze. Pandora does. "What you and James have gone through is not your fault. Neither of you are responsible," Pandora murmurs, her voice softening. "Unfortunately, it's crucial that you lie anyway. Do not acknowledge that everything that happened was out of your control. Even, Regulus, even when she mentions Evan, you can't respond with anger." Regulus clenches his jaw. "Don't talk about him." "Like that. You can't do that," Pandora says, her eyes full of remorse. "You have to— I know it's hard." "No, you don't. And that, shockingly, is James." Regulus looks at him to see that he's angry too, his eyes blazing. "You don't fucking know. You don't know anything. You weren't there, and you will never have to be there. And you— Pandora swallows. "Yeah, that. You definitely can't do that. This anger you have, the both of you, can't exist during this interview. Even though I'm your friend, I'm still a Hallow, and you hold resentment." She lifts a calm hand when Regulus starts to open his mouth. "You have every right to. It's not fair. The Hallow is to blame, and so is Riddle, and I don't know. But that can't matter. On the stage, it can't matter. So we're just supposed to go up there and pretend like we don't know that all those people who died never would have if it wasn't for all of this? James snaps. Yes, Pandora whispers. I'm sorry, but yes. James scoffs. Fuck that. They can't just continue in ignorance. They can't just... James, Regulus interrupts, his voice soft and hollowed out, nearly empty, because he knows. Because he's thinking about Gideon, and he's thinking about Fabian. Because he's sure that Sirius would never agree with their forced compliance if there wasn't danger waiting on them if they refused. No, James grits out, glaring at him. Those that are gone, they deserve better. They deserve better, Regulus. Vanity. His voice cracks on her name, and he flinches as soon as he said it. He swallows and shakes his head. She deserves better. She was too young. I wasn't able to save her, and she was too fucking young, and I refuse to. They're dead, James, Regulus rasps. They're all dead. Regulus, James says, staring at him in nothing short of betrayal, looking absolutely capsized by the words. You know who isn't dead, Regulus continues. Your parents. My parents. Sirius, Barty. They're not dead, James, and I think if we'd like to keep it that way, we should do as we're told. What? James looks around, surging forward with immediate panic, fear in his eyes that makes Regulus tense, automatically ready to kill whatever has him afraid. But this, he can't kill this. It's terrifying. I don't understand. The games are still on, Regulus murmurs, closing his eyes as he exhales in a horrible mixture of exhaustion and relief. He's so tired, but he almost feels better, just to think that there's a reason for him to still be so focused on survival. The danger is still here. It's here. For some reason, the realization sharpens him, clears his head, makes it easier to focus, to breathe, to not feel so lost. Defying the Hallow in any blatant way is dangerous, James, Sirius croaks, and when Regulus opens his eyes, he sees that he looks tired, too. Haunted. Regulus understands now. Sirius enters the arena every year, even as a mentor. The realization is crushing. I don't want to frighten you, but it's imperative that neither of you have come off as rebellious in any capacity, not even accidentally. Oh, Remus says softly, slumping back as his face twists, like he's suddenly understanding as well. Are my parents in danger? James demands. Sirius, tell me. No, but they could be, Sirius whispers, squeezing his eyes shut, as if the mere thought terrifies him so much that he just wants to block it out. If this goes wrong, they could be. We all could be. That settles between all of them, heavy and stifling. James sinks back into his chair, his hands trembling in his lap. Regulus is utterly still. I'm sorry, he thinks. Evan, I'm so sorry. Okay, James chokes out, finally. Okay, we'll do it. We'll go up there and play their stupid game. If it helps, I'm going to essentially give you a script, Pandora mumbles. When Rita talks about the people who died, those that you lost, you can respond in grief. You can talk about missing them. You can talk about them, that's fine, but you can't talk about how unfair it is that they're gone. You can't say that anyone is at fault for them being gone besides those that killed them. You can't get angry or defensive, and it's best if you act like their sympathy is helpful. Can we say we don't want to talk about it? Regulus asks. No, Pandora whispers. I'm sorry. Then give me something to say, Regulus whispers back, swallowing harshly. Anything, Pandora, please. If you don't know what to say, just say that you'll never forget them, Pandora tells him sadly. Say their sacrifice will remain in your heart forever. She takes a deep breath and settles her shoulders. There's something else that's really important, and you're not gonna like it. I never do, Regulus mutters. What is it? Pandora's gaze flicks to James, lingering, and so Regulus looks at him as well. James, what you did at the end, when you threatened to ingest the venom if they didn't let you and Regulus both come home, it was defiant. Too defiant. What? James croaks, his eyes widening. But I wasn't trying to. I didn't mean to. I know. We know you weren't trying to disregard the system or rebel against order, but nevertheless, there will be some who see it that way, Pandora says, her voice strained. This is why you're going to actively disband that notion by playing up your one and only motivation. Slowly, Pandora's eyes crawl to Regulus, and so do James's. After a beat, Regulus glances around to see that Sirius and Remus are also staring at him, and it still takes him a second to realize what's happening. When it hits him, he releases a harsh laugh and launches to his feet. Oh, fuck no, Regulus snarls. Absolutely fucking not. Reggie, Sirius says with a heavy sigh. No, Regulus bursts out. You can't seriously be asking me to do it again. To give them a fucking show again. To play into romance for survival again. Sirius leans forward and lifts both hands to rub them up and down his face, and then he looks up from his palms to stare at Regulus as he whispers, I'm sorry. What are we supposed to do? James asks quietly, subdued. You're going to have to convince everyone, and I do mean everyone, that it was all about love, Pandora announces, just as regretful as Sirius. That what happened at the end was out of desperation because you're in love. That everything you did, all of your motivation, was sourced from love. You'll need to present yourself as happy and together, a couple. A believable one that everyone will adore. I won't do it, Regulus hisses. No, Sirius. You don't have a choice, Sirius says, shaking his head. If this is going to work, you have to do this. It is survival, Regulus, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Fuck off, Regulus explodes, turning away while cursing vibrantly, feeling like he's about to fly apart. Regulus, Reg, come here. Fuck you too, James. Regulus, James snaps, and his voice is harsh enough that Regulus actually does halt and release a huff as he swivels around with a glare. Stop being a brat and come here. I should have fucking killed you, Regulus declares. But you didn't. Here's the consequence, love. James gives him a tight smile and leans forward, snatching up his cane and holding it from the bottom as he reaches out to hook the handle around Regulus's arm, giving a tug. I said, come here. I'm not doing it, Regulus insists, even as he moves forward with a scowl. James holds his gaze. My parents could be in danger, so you will, in fact, be doing it. You're going to hold my hand, and you're going to smile at me, and you're going to tell the entire world that you love me so much that you went into that river because you couldn't imagine living without me. You're going to smile when I tell everyone how much I love you, and you're going to listen as I explain that I plan to drink that venom because I couldn't live without you, and you're going to kiss me back when I lean in for one. We're going to go up there on that stage, and we're going to act like we're so in love that it makes us crazy. And we're going to be so convincing that even we'll struggle to know it's not real. Do you understand? Okay, Regulus whispers, unable to look away from the intensity of James's eyes. You're doing it, James reiterates firmly. Regulus exhales slowly and croaks, Fine, I'm doing it. Okay, James mumbles, his expression changing rapidly from one intensity to another, something entirely different that puts another unfortunate heart flutter in Regulus's chest. Oh, the heart flutters are still here. He thought they'd gone. James's voice is soft as he says, Glad we agree. Right, Regulus says, studying James's face helplessly. Right, yes, we definitely... Well, actually, I don't agree at all, but you're going to do what I say anyway, James cuts in, his gaze holding Regulus's with unwavering focus, keeping him trapped until it's just the two of them, and nothing else exists. Yes, Regulus blurts out, a little stilted and strained, as if he's not getting enough oxygen to his brain. Oh, he hates James Potter so fucking much. Well, that's a first, James muses. How did I manage that, I wonder? Regulus takes in a short, choppy breath. His chest stutters on his inhale, and that's really quite embarrassing, actually. The tension is so thick that he feels like he could swim through it, and it's so muddled with his confusion that he's not entirely sure if they're about to fight, or... Nope, no, absolutely not. Regulus takes a firm step back, watching James blink like he's just been smacked right back into his own body with force. Regulus glances away, resisting the urge to clear his throat. Sirius looks so uncomfortable right now. Pandora coughs. Great, let's, discuss details then.